Have you ever had a day where one small thing, one tiny, insignificant event, was enough to send you into a spiral of frustration that poisoned the entire morning? Maybe it was someone cutting you off in traffic on your way to work, and suddenly you feel that hot flash of anger that stays with you for hours. Or perhaps it was a single critical email, a thoughtless comment from a family member, or just the simple act of spilling your coffee. And just like that, a perfectly good day is derailed. You carry that tension in your shoulders, that tightness in your jaw, and you find yourself snapping at people you care about, all because of something that, in the grand scheme of things, meant absolutely nothing. If that sounds even remotely familiar, I want you to know you are not alone. In a world that constantly demands more from us, more productivity, more engagement, more energy, it's easy to feel like we're living on a knife's edge, where the slightest nudge can send us tumbling into a state of anxiety or anger. We feel like we're losing control, that our own emotional well-being is at the mercy of external events, of other people's actions, of pure chance. We try to manage everything around us, hoping that if we can just organize the world perfectly, we'll finally find some peace. But it never works, does it? The world will always be chaotic and unpredictable. But what if the secret to a lasting, durable calm wasn't about trying to control the uncontrollable world outside? What if the secret was about forging an unshakable peace inside? This isn't a new idea. In fact, it's an ancient one, forged in the fires of the Roman Empire by emperors, playwrights, and former slaves who faced plagues, wars, and political turmoil far greater than our own. It's called Stoicism. And today, we're not going to give you a dry history lesson. We are going to open up a practical toolkit, filled with 10 powerful, time-tested strategies that can help you master your emotions and build a life of profound resilience and inner peace, starting right now. Lesson 1, The Circle of Control. To begin this journey, we need to lay the first foundational stone. This is perhaps the most important, most central lesson of Stoicism, an idea so surprisingly simple yet powerful enough to change your life forever. It's called the dichotomy of control, a concept taught by Epictetus, a man who was once a slave and rose to become one of the most influential philosophers in history. Imagine Epictetus's life. Every day was dictated by others, from what he ate and where he slept, to whether he would even be alive tomorrow. In circumstances of almost zero freedom, he discovered an absolutely liberating truth: in this universe, there is only one thing we truly have complete control over, and that is our own mind. More specifically, our choices, our judgments, and our intentional actions. Everything else, literally everything else, lies outside our complete control. Think about that for a moment. The weather, the economy, the stock market, whether your boss is in a good mood, whether your children listen, whether another driver yields to you, even our own long-term health, all of these things are outside your direct circle of control. We can influence some of them, sure. You can eat healthy to improve your health, you can work hard to impress your boss. But you cannot control the final outcome. You can still get sick. Your boss can still have a bad day and take it out on you. This is an undeniable fact of life. And this is precisely where most of us get stuck. We spend most of our time, energy, and emotions trying to wrestle with things outside that circle. We get angry because it rains on our picnic day. We lose sleep worrying about market fluctuations. We suffer because others don't act as we wish. We are like someone standing on the shore, shouting at the waves and ordering them not to crash. It's a battle we are guaranteed to lose, and it leaves us exhausted. The Stoic chooses a different path. They don't waste energy on that futile fight. Instead, they focus 100% of their attention on the small but powerful circle they truly command: their own choices. Epictetus used a brilliant metaphor of an archer. The archer can control everything within his power, he can practice for thousands of hours, he can choose the best bow, the straightest arrow. When he shoots, he can control his stance, how he draws the string, how he aims, and the moment he releases. That is everything within his circle of control. But once the arrow leaves the bow, he no longer controls it. A sudden gust of wind could blow it off course. The target could suddenly move. The arrow may hit the mark, or it may not. The novice archer stakes all his happiness on whether the arrow hits the target. If it hits, he is joyful. If it misses, he is angry and disappointed. But the master archer, the Stoic archer, finds satisfaction elsewhere. He finds it in knowing he did everything in his power to the best of his ability. He chose his bow and arrow carefully, drew the string with proper technique, aimed precisely. The rest is not up to him. Whatever the result, he remains calm, because he succeeded in what he could control. Apply this to your life. Let's say you're working on a major project at work. You've poured weeks into it, worked your hardest, researched thoroughly, and presented an excellent plan. But in the end, management decides to cut the budget and cancel the project. What is the natural reaction? Anger, injustice, feeling like all your effort was wasted. But the Stoic approach would be, management's decision is outside my circle. But the fact that I worked professionally, gave my all, and learned a lot in the process, that was within my circle. I succeeded in my part. The energy you save from not being angry and complaining can be used to find a new project, or to go home and enjoy the evening with your family. Or another example, a family member is making unhealthy life choices. You love them and you're worried. What can you do? You can talk to them sincerely, offer advice, offer help. That's what you can control. But you cannot control their final choice. You cannot live their life for them. Trying to do so will only lead to suffering for both of you. Accepting that their choice is outside your circle frees you from the burden of control, allowing you to continue loving them without being destroyed by their decisions. This isn't apathy. This is wisdom. It's recognizing which battles are yours to fight and which are not. By focusing on your circle of control, you shift from being a victim of circumstance to being the architect of your own life. You are no longer pulled by the strings of the external world. You become the master of your inner world, and from there, you find a peace that no storm can shake. Lesson 2, Powerful Acceptance, Not Passivity. Now that we understand the circle of control, we move to the next lesson, one that is often deeply misunderstood. It's the power of acceptance. And when people hear the word acceptance, especially in Western culture which prizes action and struggle, they often think of weakness, giving up, or worse, resignation. They think acceptance means letting others walk all over you, or surrendering to adversity. I want to be crystal clear from the start, that is absolutely not what Stoic acceptance means. Stoic acceptance is not a passive act, it is an act of supreme clarity. It is a powerful tool. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at his time, wrote in his personal journal, which later became the classic Meditations, "Love what happens." What could be more fitting for you? This sentence doesn't come from a weak man, but from a man who had to deal with constant warfare, plagues, and treacherous plots. For him, acceptance wasn't about giving up, it was the first and necessary step to being able to act effectively. Think of it this way, you cannot solve a problem if you don't first admit it exists. A doctor cannot treat a patient if he refuses to accept the diagnosis. A sea captain cannot guide his ship to its destination if he denies the direction the wind is blowing. He doesn't control the wind, but he must accept its existence and direction to adjust his sails properly. Stoic acceptance is about looking reality straight in the eye, without illusion, without wishful thinking, and saying, okay, this is the situation. These are the cards I've been dealt. Now, how am I going to play this hand? This acceptance frees us from one of the greatest sources of human suffering, the war between reality and what we want reality to be. We waste a colossal amount of energy fighting against unchangeable facts. This shouldn't have happened. If only he hadn't said that. Why me? All these questions stem from non-acceptance. They keep us stuck in the past, in regret and bitterness. Stoic acceptance cuts that chain. It brings us back to the present moment, the only place where we can act. Consider a practical example. Suppose you realize your partner has a habit that drives you crazy, for instance, they are very messy. You've talked, you've argued, you've tried everything, but the habit doesn't change. You have two options. The first is to continue the endless battle, getting frustrated every day, complaining, and letting that resentment erode your relationship. This is the path of non-acceptance. The second option, the Stoic path, is to accept a fact: my partner is a messy person. This is a part of who they are that I cannot change. This acceptance doesn't mean you have to like the mess, or that you have to live in a pigsty. Not at all. It means you stop wasting energy trying to change the other person. And from that point of acceptance, you can make clear choices from within your circle of control. You can say, okay, since I can't change them, what can I change? I can clean the common areas and ask them to keep their personal space tidy. I can hire a cleaner once a week. Or, if this is truly unacceptable to me, I can decide that this relationship is not right for me. See? Acceptance doesn't lead to passivity. It leads to intentional and effective action. It gives the power back to you. Think about a financial situation. The stock market crashes, and your portfolio loses 30% of its value. The non-accepting reaction is to panic, to sell in fear, or to sit there cursing the market. The Stoic reaction is to accept: the market is a volatile entity. This drop has happened. It is outside my control. From that point of acceptance, you can act wisely. What can I control? I can review my budget. I can cut unnecessary expenses. I can ensure I don't sell at the bottom of the market and stick to my long-term strategy. Powerful acceptance is the perfect partner to the circle of control. It's the tool that helps us categorize the world. When faced with any situation, the first question is, in this, what can I control and what can I not? The answer to the cannot control part requires acceptance. And once you've accepted it, you can pour all your mind and energy into the can control part. This is the path to serenity. Not an empty, apathetic serenity, but a solid serenity, rooted in living in harmony with reality, instead of fighting against it. It is the power to look at the storm and say, I see you. I accept that you are here. And now, I will steer my ship. We have just laid the two foundational stones, a clear awareness of what we can and cannot control, and the power of accepting reality. Now, with that solid foundation, we will begin to build the house of inner peace by equipping ourselves with 3 powerful tools for the mind. These are practical techniques to help you navigate the chaos of daily life. Lesson 3: Mindful Presence. In our modern world, there is a silent epidemic spreading. It's not a virus, but a state of mind, chronic distraction. Let's be honest with ourselves. Even when you are doing one thing, where is your mind? Is it worrying about a meeting tomorrow? Is it regretting a conversation from last week? Or is it simply scrolling through your smartphone, a machine perfectly designed to steal your most precious treasure, your attention in the present moment? We live in an age where we are everywhere and nowhere at once. We eat a delicious meal but don't truly taste it. We talk to our children but don't truly hear them. We are living our lives but missing them almost entirely. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "Life is not short, but we waste a great deal of it." He wasn't talking about laziness. He was talking about living without being truly present. For the Stoics, the practice of mindfulness, or conscious presence, was not an abstract Eastern concept. It was an essential discipline. It is the act of bringing your mind back home, to the present moment, the only place where life actually happens. So what is mindfulness, in simple terms? It is paying attention to what is happening, right now, without judgment. It is observing your thoughts and feelings as they drift by like clouds in the sky, instead of being swept up in their storm. When you are angry, mindfulness is the ability to recognize, there is a feeling of anger here, instead of becoming the anger itself. This small difference in awareness brings about a huge shift in power. And this isn't just a nice, fluffy idea. Science is beginning to prove this ancient wisdom. A major meta-analysis, that is, a study that reviews the results of many other studies combined, analyzed data from thousands of people. They found that a practice called mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, significantly reduced symptoms of anxiety, stress, and depression. It didn't just make people feel better. Other studies using brain imaging show it actually changes the brain structure and activity, thickening areas related to focus and emotional regulation, while calming down the brain's fear alarm center. Essentially, practicing mindfulness is like exercise for your brain, making it stronger, more flexible, and less reactive to stress. So how do we practice this in the middle of a busy life? You don't need to meditate for hours on a mountaintop. You can start right now, with something you always have with you, your breath. Try this little exercise. Just pause for a moment. Inhale deeply, counting to 4. Hold, counting to 4. And exhale slowly, counting to 6. Repeat 3 times. For those 30 seconds, just pay attention to the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. If a thought appears, gently acknowledge it and then guide your attention back to your breath. That's it. That is a moment of mindfulness. You can apply this principle anywhere. When you drink your morning coffee, instead of scrolling the news, take 1 minute to truly experience it. Feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. Smell its aroma. Taste its richness on your tongue. When you take a walk, feel your feet touching the ground, feel the gentle wind on your skin. The goal here is not to empty your mind. That's impossible. The goal is to become the observer of your mind, not its prisoner. By practicing mindful presence, you create a precious space between you and your automatic reactions. That space is where freedom, choice, and true peace exist. Mindfulness is the training ground where you build the mental muscle to apply all the other lessons of Stoicism effectively. Lesson 4. Build your resilience. People often think that the goal of a good life is to avoid difficulty. We dream of a life with no obstacles, no failures, no pain. But the Stoics had a completely different perspective, one that is challenging but ultimately far more powerful. They didn't just endure adversity, they used it. They believed that the obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. There's a powerful image to describe this. Think of a blacksmith. He takes a rough, shapeless lump of iron. If he leaves it alone, it will forever be just a lump of iron. But instead, he heats it in a blazing fire, places it on an anvil, and hammers it again and again. The fire and the hammer, the very things that seem to be destroying the iron, are actually the tools that are shaping and tempering it, turning it from something weak into a sharp, strong, and useful sword. For the Stoic, adversity is that fire and hammer. Every challenge, every failure, every pain is an opportunity to forge our character, our courage, our patience, our wisdom, our justice. They wouldn't say, "I wish this hadn't happened." They would ask, "This has happened, so how can I use it to become a better person?" Imagine a very real-life story. A man named John, 45, has worked for the same company for 15 years. He's loyal, hardworking, and believes he has a stable job until retirement. Then one day, the company restructures, and he's laid off. His initial reaction, like any of ours would be, is a tsunami of negative emotions. Fear, how will I pay the bills? I'm too old to start over. Anger, why me? I gave them so much. Shame, what will people think of me? I'm a failure. This is the natural reaction, but if he gets stuck there, it will destroy him. Now, let's see how John applies the Stoic mindset. After the initial shock, he sits down and practices the lessons we've discussed. First, he applies the circle of control and acceptance. Being laid off has happened. The company's decision is outside my control. The difficult job market is also outside my control. I accept this. So, what is within my control? And this is where resilience begins to be forged. He looks at this disaster not as an endpoint, but as an exercise. This is painful, but what opportunity is it giving me? He starts to list them. An opportunity to reevaluate, Was I actually happy in that job, or was I just comfortable? This is a chance to think about what I really want to do for the next 15 years of my life. An opportunity to learn. Is there a new skill I've always wanted to learn but never had the time for? Maybe digital marketing, or project management. This is the time to invest in myself. An opportunity to connect. I can use this time to reconnect with old colleagues, rebuild my network. I can spend more quality time with my family. An opportunity to practice humility and courage. This is scary. But facing this fear and getting through it will make me stronger than ever. By changing his perspective, John has transformed a negative event into a catalyst for personal growth. The failure is no longer a verdict on his worth, it's simply a set of data. It gives him information about what needs to change, what needs to be improved. This isn't about deluding himself that losing his job is a good thing. It's about acknowledging the pain, but refusing to be a victim of it. Modern psychology calls this post-traumatic growth. Researchers have found that many people who go through terrible events, like serious illness, the loss of a loved one, or accidents, don't just return to normal. They actually grow. They report that their relationships become deeper, they appreciate life more, and they discover an inner strength they never knew they had. This is precisely what the Stoics were practicing thousands of years ago. So, the next time you face a challenge, big or small, try asking yourself the blacksmith's question: what shape is this fire, this hammer, trying to forge me into? What virtue can I learn from this? By doing so, you won't just survive life's difficulties. You will thrive because of them. Lesson 5. The pause button, your secret weapon against anger. Of all the emotions that can hijack our minds, perhaps none is as powerful and destructive as anger. As we've seen from audience comments, anger and frustration are among the biggest struggles many of us face daily. It can flare up from a word, an action, or a minor inconvenience, and in an instant, it takes us over, causing us to say and do things we later regret. Seneca called anger a brief insanity. The Stoics spent a great deal of time analyzing anger, and they came to a profound conclusion: it is not the external event that creates anger, it is our judgment about the event that creates it. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things." The car that cuts you off is not anger. Your judgment: he's so disrespectful. Who does he think he is? Is the anger. If our judgment is the source of our anger, the good news is that we can change our judgment. And the key to doing that lies in a simple but revolutionary concept: creating a pause. Imagine there's an invisible pause button in your mind. Between what happens, the trigger, and how you react, there is a space. The goal of the Stoic is to find that space and lengthen it, even for just a second. In that moment of pause, wisdom has a chance to speak. And once again, modern neuroscience confirms this in a stunning way. In labs, when scientists show participants disturbing images and ask them to actively change how they think about them, a technique called cognitive reappraisal, they can see a clear change on fMRI scans. Activity in the brain's anger centers, like the amygdala, literally cools down. Meanwhile, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reason and decision-making, increases. This means you literally have a physical remote control for your own anger, you just need to learn how to use it. So, how do we hit the pause button in real life, when our blood is boiling? Here is a simple 4-step process you can practice. Step 1. Recognize the physical signs. Anger isn't just a thought, it's a bodily response. Learn to recognize the first signals. Is it your jaw clenching? Your chest tightening? A feeling of heat spreading through your body? When you feel these signs, that's the alarm, the pause button needs to be pressed now. Step 2. Pause. Just one breath. Before you say a single word, before you type a single key, do one thing: take one deep, slow breath. This simple physical act can be enough to break the brain's automatic reaction chain, giving you that precious second to shift from instinctive reaction mode to conscious thought mode. Step 3. question the initial judgment. In that moment of pause, ask yourself a few quick questions. Is my first thought the only possible interpretation of this? Is it 100% true? Is believing this thought helping me right now? For example, if a colleague interrupts you in a meeting, the initial judgment might be, he's deliberately trying to humiliate me. Question it. Is it possible he was just excited about his idea and didn't realize he cut me off? Could he be trying to add an important point he was afraid he'd forget? Does thinking he's trying to humiliate me help make this meeting more effective? Step 4. Reframe. This is where you actively choose a different, more useful judgment, a different story. Instead of, he's so disrespectful, try, maybe he's having a really bad day. Instead of, why does this always happen to me, try, this is an inconvenience, but it's not a catastrophe. Instead of, this kid never listens, try, she's tired and needs my patience, not my anger. This reframing isn't about making excuses for others' bad behavior. Nor is it about lying to yourself. It's about recognizing that your initial judgment is just one story among many possible stories, and you have the power to choose the one that serves you best. By choosing a less inflammatory story, you are taking back control of your emotions. Practicing this won't be easy at first. But like any skill, it gets easier with time. Every time you successfully hit the pause button, you are strengthening a new neural pathway in your brain. You are no longer trying to suppress anger, an effort that often backfires. You are outsmarting it. You are using your wisdom to diffuse it before it has a chance to take over. And that is one of the highest expressions of freedom and personal power. If the last 3 tools were for organizing the mind, for dealing with stress and anger, then the next 4 lessons are for nourishing the heart. They not only help us manage negative emotions, but also actively build a solid foundation of contentment, meaning, and deep inner joy. These are the tools that help us answer the question, how do I live a life that is not just peaceful, but truly good? Lesson 6. Want less, have more. We live in a culture that worships more. A bigger house, a newer car, a higher job title, more followers on social media. We are programmed from a young age to believe that the path to happiness is paved with the things we own and the achievements we acquire. We run on a relentless machine, believing that with just one more item, one more success, we will arrive at our destination and feel complete. Modern psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. It works like this: you crave a new car. You work, you save, and you finally buy it. For a week, a month, you feel fantastic. But then the novelty wears off. The new car becomes normal. Your happiness level returns to its baseline. And now, your mind starts craving something else, something bigger, better. You keep running but never actually get anywhere. The Stoics recognized this trap 2,000 years ago. They understood a simple but profound truth: true wealth does not lie in how much you have, but in how little you need. Happiness is not a matter of addition, adding more possessions, but of subtraction, subtracting unnecessary desires. Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is a revolutionary idea, especially today. It directly challenges the messages we receive every day. Think about the pressure of keeping up with the Joneses. You see your neighbor get a new kitchen, and suddenly your own kitchen looks shabby. You see friends post photos of a luxurious vacation on Instagram, and suddenly your life seems boring. This pressure is real, and it is a source of chronic dissatisfaction. The Stoic solution is not to live an ascetic life, renouncing all comforts. It is to practice intentional self-inquiry. Before pursuing a desire, pause and ask yourself, do I truly need this, or do I only want it because society, advertising, or comparison has convinced me I should want it? Will acquiring this truly change the quality of my life in the long term, or is it just a fleeting pleasure? One of the most powerful Stoic exercises to combat the hedonic treadmill is a technique called negative visualization. It sounds pessimistic, but its purpose is incredibly positive. Spend a little time each morning imagining your life without the things you currently take for granted. Imagine losing your home, your health, or worse, a loved one. The purpose here is not to wallow in gloom. The purpose is that when you open your eyes and realize that all those things are still here, a wave of profound gratitude will wash over you. You will realize how incredibly wealthy you are in this very moment. Your warm bed, your hot coffee, your partner's laugh, all become treasures. You become instantly wealthy without having to buy a single thing. This lesson teaches us that contentment is not a passive state achieved when we have everything. It is an active choice, a discipline of finding joy in what we already have, rather than betting our happiness on what we don't. By wanting less, you don't just save money, you save something far more precious, your mental energy. You free yourself from the constant anxiety of pursuit and comparison, and instead, you find a freedom and a fullness in the life you already have. Lesson 7. Live with virtue. If money, fame, and possessions are not the measure of a good life, then what is? For the Stoics, the answer was clear and unshakable: it is virtue. This is the North Star in the Stoic universe, the only internal compass that never points the wrong way. When we hear the word virtue, it can sound a bit old-fashioned or lofty. But for the Stoics, it was very specific and practical. Virtue is made up of 4 core qualities, like the 4 legs of a sturdy table. They are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Let's translate these into modern language. Wisdom. This isn't about having a high IQ or memorizing an encyclopedia. Stoic wisdom is practical wisdom. It's the ability to distinguish between what is helpful and what is harmful, what is important and what is trivial. It's the ability to see through life's complexities and make the right choices. It's knowing what is within your circle of control and what is not. Courage. This isn't just bravery on the battlefield. More importantly, it is moral courage. It's the courage to do the right thing, even when it's hard, unpopular, or even dangerous. It's the courage to speak the truth, to have uncomfortable conversations, to admit your mistakes, and to live authentically. Justice. This isn't about laws or courts. Stoic justice is about integrity, kindness, and how we treat others. It's the recognition that we are all part of a larger human community. It's acting with fairness, honesty, and compassion in our families, workplaces, and society. It's simply trying to be a good person. Temperance. This is self-control, moderation. It's the ability to master your desires and impulses, rather than being controlled by them. It's the ability to say no to another drink, to an impulsive purchase, or to the temptation of procrastination. It is balance and discipline, the foundation for a clear mind. The most important thing to understand is that, for the Stoics, living by these 4 virtues is the only good. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, even life itself, is considered a preferred indifferent. They are nice to have, but they do not define your worth as a human being. You can be the richest person in the world and live an immoral, empty life. Conversely, you can be poor but live a life full of dignity, courage, and meaning. Your worth lies in your character, not your bank account. This is an incredibly powerful message for our audience, who are constantly judged by society based on external metrics. It frees us from the pressure to succeed according to someone else's definition. So how do you apply this practically? Turn it into a filter for your decisions. When faced with a difficult choice, big or small, pause and ask yourself: what is the wise choice? What is the courageous choice? What is the just choice? What is the temperate choice? The answer isn't always easy, but asking these questions will point your internal compass in the right direction. It helps you get past momentary feelings and conveniences to focus on the kind of person you want to be. Living with virtue does not guarantee you an easy life. But it guarantees you a life you can be proud of. It provides a solid self-respect, an inner peace that cannot be taken away by any external event. Lesson 8. Embrace impermanence. There is a practice that the Stoic philosophers, especially Marcus Aurelius, frequently contemplated. It's an idea that can make us uncomfortable at first, but it holds immense liberating power. It is memento mori, a Latin phrase that means, remember that you must die. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. In our modern culture that avoids talking about death, this sounds morbid. But the Stoics' goal was not to be pessimistic. Quite the contrary. Confronting the truth of life's finiteness is not meant to depress us, but to awaken us. It is the antidote to one of the greatest diseases of the soul, taking time for granted and wasting it. Memento mori provides two great benefits. First, it helps us deal with pain. When you are in a difficult period, a disappointment, a loss, an illness, remember that, this too shall pass. The nature of the universe is constant change. Nothing is permanent, including your pain. Just as dark clouds eventually part to make way for the sun, so too will your difficult phase. This thought doesn't make the pain instantly disappear, but it offers hope. It reminds you that your current state is not your final destination. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it creates appreciation and urgency for the good moments. When you truly internalize that your time is limited, you stop taking good things for granted. A family dinner is no longer a tiresome obligation, it becomes a precious opportunity to connect. A conversation with a friend is no longer just killing time, it becomes a moment of genuine sharing. A quiet afternoon reading a book is no longer laziness, it is a gift. Impermanence teaches us that every moment is precious because it will never come again. This is a powerful antidote to procrastination and our someday mentality. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll tell my parents I love them. Someday I'll start writing that book. Memento mori taps us on the shoulder and says, that day is today. The only moment you truly have is this one. How do you practice this? You don't need to be obsessed with death. Just a gentle reminder is enough. Perhaps place a small object on your desk, a small skull, an hourglass, as a symbol. Or practice a simple reflection exercise at the end of each day, look back on the day as if it were your last. How did you use your time? Did you say the words that needed to be said? Did you treat people with kindness? Did you waste energy on petty things, on pointless anger? The purpose is not to blame yourself, but to learn and resolve to live better tomorrow, if you are lucky enough to have it. By embracing impermanence, we do not live in fear. We live with focus, clarity, and a deep gratitude for the extraordinary gift of each day we get to live. Lesson 9, Practical Gratitude. Now we come to a lesson that many have heard of, but few truly understand its power, especially when life gets hard. That is gratitude. And I want to start by acknowledging something important that many of you have shared. When you've just lost your job, when you're facing a scary medical diagnosis, or when your heart is broken, having someone tell you to be grateful can feel like a slap in the face. It can seem trite and lacking in empathy. So, let's be clear, Stoic gratitude is not a rosy feeling, nor is it pretending everything is okay. Stoic gratitude is a discipline. It is a conscious act of awareness, a tool you use to deliberately redirect your attention. Our minds have a natural negativity bias, they are programmed to look for threats and things that are wrong. Gratitude is the exercise to counteract that bias. It's you telling your brain, I know you want to focus on the 10 bad things that happened today, but right now, we are going to work together to find 3 good things. In the toughest times, practical gratitude is not about trying to feel grateful for the challenge itself. It's about finding something, no matter how small, to anchor your mind in the storm. Maybe it's not gratitude for losing your job, but gratitude for the friend who called to check in on you. Maybe it's not gratitude for being sick, but gratitude for the warmth of the blanket covering you. It could be as simple as gratitude for the coffee you're drinking, for having a roof over your head, or for your legs being strong enough to get you out of bed this morning. The goal is to find something real, solid, and focus on it. This doesn't deny the pain, it simply refuses to let the pain take over the entire landscape. And again, the science on this is undeniable and incredibly compelling. Dozens, even hundreds, of rigorous studies have been conducted. One large meta-analysis looked at 64 different trials and concluded that practicing gratitude regularly is one of the most effective tools we have to combat depression and anxiety. It improves sleep, enhances empathy, and boosts overall feelings of well-being. It literally reprograms your brain to look for the positive. So how do you make this a habit? One of the most effective methods is the gratitude journal. Keep a notebook and pen by your bed. Every night before you sleep, write down 3 specific things that went well during the day and, this is the important part, why they went well. The why forces you to reflect more deeply. Not just, my son hugged me. But, my son hugged me, which reminded me that I am loved and have a vital connection in my life. Not just, I finished a report. But, I finished a report, which shows that I am competent and can overcome difficult tasks. This practice takes only 5 minutes, but it will change how you perceive your day. Instead of going to sleep with thoughts of what went wrong, you will go to sleep with your mind actively scanning for what went right. Gratitude is not the denial of pain. It is a powerful act of defiance against despair. It is the ultimate weapon for finding the light, even the smallest glimmer, on the darkest of days. It reminds us that even when life isn't perfect, it is still full of gifts waiting to be discovered. We have gone through 9 lessons, 9 powerful tools to build a fortress of peace within your soul. But there is one final lesson, a lesson that isn't a single tool, but the golden thread that ties them all together. It is the overarching mindset that ensures this change is not just a temporary inspiration, but a sustainable transformation. Lesson 10, always a student. Stoic philosophy, and indeed any path of self-development, is not a destination. There is no single day when you wake up and say, great, I've become a perfect Stoic. I've graduated. Life doesn't work that way. Life is a continuous process of change, of new challenges, and of new opportunities to learn. The moment we think we know everything is the very moment we stop growing. Epictetus, the great teacher, emphasized that the pursuit of philosophy is a lifelong commitment. He saw himself not as an all-knowing sage, but as a perpetual student, always striving to be a little better than he was yesterday. This is an incredibly humble yet powerful attitude. It frees us from the pressure of perfection. You don't have to apply all 10 of these lessons perfectly starting tomorrow. The goal is not perfection, the goal is progress. Were you a little more patient today than you were yesterday? Were you a little more aware of your judgments? That is the victory. In our constantly changing modern world, this always a student mindset is more important than ever. What works for you at 35 may need to be adjusted when you're 45 or 55. The challenges you face in your career, in your relationships, in your own health will always be changing. A commitment to lifelong learning means you are always ready to adapt. You read books, you listen to others, you self-reflect, and most importantly, you see your own life as the greatest teacher. Every mistake is a lesson. Every success is also a lesson. So, view these 10 tools not as a checklist to be completed, but as a toolkit you will carry with you for life. There will be times when you need the hammer of resilience more. There will be times when the compass of virtue will be what you need most. And there will be days when you just need to sit quietly with gratitude. The student's job is to know when to use which tool. And as we look back on this journey, from understanding the circle of control to the power of gratitude, we can see a bigger picture. These are not just ancient lessons, they are practical, time-tested, and increasingly scientifically validated tools to help you build a calmer, stronger, and freer version of yourself. They are the path to taking back control of your life from the chaos of the external world, and putting it back where it belongs, inside your mind and your heart. So, my question for you today is not what you have learned, but what you will do. Of the 10 lessons we've shared, which one do you feel you need to practice the most this week? Is it hitting the pause button when anger strikes? Is it writing down 3 things you're grateful for each night? Or is it simply taking one deep breath and being fully present for just a moment? Let me know your answer in the comments below. Not for me, but for you. Because your journey of transformation doesn't begin with knowing all 10 lessons. It begins by choosing one and practicing it. That small choice is your first step. And if this video has brought you value, please consider hitting the subscribe button to walk this path with us. Because this is a journey we don't have to take alone. Thank you for your time.